Cheese! If you don't already know me, I am a real estate broker, and well, I make educational videos on YouTube and in my course, link below. What?
There's a lemon orchard.
Oh my gosh, go look at him. Look, there's one on the floor. Go check it out. As a real estate broker, probably 90% of the people that come to me and say, Kevin, I'm looking to buy a house, start with, but I do not want a homeowners association. Honestly, I don't think I've ever in my career had somebody say, I want a homeowners association, except for the fact that I know when I go to buy properties, I kind of like HOAs. And let me show you Novice Pro style why. Yes, Jack. Oh my gosh, you're right, it is dirty. Why don't we clean it? See, look, I'm washing it.
Lemons are pretty sour.
Yes, they can be, you're right. Let's get inside. Hey, what's your name?
Jack.
And how old are you? Perfect. The number one reason people do not like homeowners associations, that is the reason the noobs don't like homeowners associations, is because they think to themselves, oh, I don't want to be subject to rules and regs. I mean, who likes following rules? I think I'm like the master of not following rules. Whoa, is that a big train that just scared you? Oh my gosh, there's a train right there. Whoa, that's like right in your backyard. Whoa, that scared you, huh? Because you usually like trains.
Yes.
That was scary.
Yes. Why was there a train?
They don't have an HOA. See, that's the thing. People don't like homeowners associations. Well, I should say noobs don't like homeowners associations because there are rules and regulations that you have to follow. So noobs automatically think, oh, these rules are gonna be oppressive. They're gonna mean I have to bring in my trash at the right time. I'm gonna have to paint my place a certain color. I won't have the freedom to do what I want. Well, the pros look at HOAs and say, this is great. When I go to rent out this property, I won't be the bad guy. The HOA can police the tenants. I basically have a regulatory body that is going to make sure property values stay as high as possible in the neighborhood, because we're not going to have people doing funky things and painting their houses pink and baby blue or bizarre things that could otherwise reduce property values. So from an investing point of view, the pro looks at an HOA and says, yes, I have a homeowners association. Now, obviously, there are caveats, right? I mean, not all HOAs are good, just like not all light fixtures are a good idea. See, the big thing is qualifying the homeowners associations, and if you want a little bit of advice on how to do that, you can find out for free by clicking the link below. Look at the free preview course I have for qualifying homeowners associations. It's like a 9-minute video, won't cost you anything to look at it, but you'll learn a ton just from that one video.
1, 2, 3, go!
Take a look at this. This is the kind of stuff that you generally won't find in an HOA. It's sort of abandoned landscaping, or bricks being piled up, or sort of other inconsistencies. Like over here, we've got palm trees and drought-tolerant planting. Then these people have the leftovers of like a yard sale going on out there. These folks over here have sort of made their front yard a backyard. But then also, in addition to sort of an inconsistency in fencing and landscaping, who takes care of problems in some of the common areas, like the tree that had graffiti on it? It is just some of the small things. That's not to say that I only buy property in homeowners associations, but there are a lot of benefits that folks won't look at.
Now I have 2 lemons.
See, here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This is totally by fluke chance, but I was talking about baby blue houses and baby pink houses. Check this out. You got a house with pretty much original paint, that is, it's pretty much non-existent, and then right next door you got I'm blue, just another example though. I mean, car with flat tires. The car is almost part of the fencing. And this is an expensive neighborhood. I mean, these houses are all 600 grand plus. Look, and I'm not saying anything's necessarily bad, but it's just when you're buying houses in the median price range, and the median price range is 600 grand, you would expect some more consistency. In addition to design guidelines, you also have things like architectural guidelines, that is what people are able to build. But you go over here, here's somebody who's turned one of those original 3-bedroom, 1-bath houses into like an 8-bedroom house so they can rent out as much as possible. At least that's what the reputation used to be. Maybe it's different now. So as we walk on over to this townhouse complex, which is called the Buenaventura Gardens. These are called the Buenaventura Gardens, and these are actually 1964 built converted apartments. There were 8 apartment units per building, and they've got about 35 buildings here. So once you get over the fact that homeowners associations have rules and regs, you might start thinking to yourself, well, what is, after all, the point of a quality association? Remember, there are definitely bad homeowners associations out there, which is why I encouraged you to check out the free preview on how to qualify homeowners associations and some things to look for. When you look at these HOAs, what are they? They are a non-profit organization. That is, they're not trying to profit off you. In fact, most of the people working for the HOA, with the exception of the primary managers or the management company, are usually volunteers on the board and so on and so forth. And the point is to look at these units, these buildings that were all converted apartments, 8 units per apartment building for a combined 282 units. What are they but a collective that basically spreads and mitigates risk of the entire neighborhood to every homeowner? That means when there's a problem with a pool or a roof or there's a plumbing issue or whatever, all of that risk isn't just concentrated on one homeowner, but rather it is spread amongst everybody. Now, look, ideally, the HOA dues that we pay cover for those things and start allocating for those things and maintain a budget so that we don't have to pay what are called assessments. That is, additional fees in case more repairs come up, which nobody wants to pay additional fees, right? Ideally, that's the case. Sure, sometimes issues come up that are bigger than the HOA could have planned for or expected. But again, it's not all on you. Much like a homeowner that might have to replace their whole sewer themselves doesn't have to do that here. Instead, they're sharing it with everybody else. The cost is much lower. So that spread risk aspect is another thing that noobs don't even consider. And the pro looks at this as, I can probably have a pretty consistent investment because I'm usually not looking at very expensive surprises that are gonna come up. All right, Jack, what do you say we go in and check out this possible investment condo? Let's do it. All right, go ahead, open the door. So here's the thing, when you buy a property like this, either to live in at first and then to convert into an investment into the future, what's something that's really cool? Generally, the walls, the plumbing within the walls, the electrical stuff within the walls, things related to the building are not your problem. They're the association's problem. What do you got? Oh my gosh, what are these? But the section of like light bulbs and outlets and stuff, you gotta take care of that stuff. Oh, leave them in there, okay? We don't want to break them. So what's something else that's sometimes cool about HOAs is, well, they can include certain utilities, like water. Now, that might be bad for the HOA because that might mean people are less conservative and the overall costs go up. But keep in mind that a lot of times trash, water, or maybe even some other amenities like a pool or spa are included in your HOA fees. So a lot of people look and go, oh my gosh, why would I spend $300 a month for a homeowners association like what people have to spend here? But you're actually getting about $100 worth of utilities covered. You're getting shared earthquake insurance, which a lot of people don't buy for houses, and not all associations have shared earthquake insurance. What is that? Are you serious? Oh, I gotcha. All right, Jack, let's get out of here. Let's go to a different house.
Okay.
Look, I know a lot of people might get sort of discouraged when they're like, oh my gosh, the HOA fees are $300 a month plus over here or something like that. That's way too much. By me, the HOA fees are $150 a quarter. Well, you gotta keep in mind that HOAs charge based on what they provide, like some of the things we just talked about. But oftentimes I'll see homeowners associations that are $150 a quarter, and all they provide is a pool and a gate service. There's no insurance for the buildings, there's no earthquake insurance, there are no utilities that are included. Whereas in this particular neighborhood, you do have those benefits of the HOA maintaining the roof, the structure, the exterior paint, the rules and regs, the pool, the spa, the trash, the water softening, water utility itself. A lot of cooler benefits. Yes, Jack, what do you got?
Can you open that gate?
Nope. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, is they have security, so we can't get in. If Jack slipped and fell, it's not your liability, it's all of the association's liability. And I think that's what newbie investors forget, is the rules and regs serve a purpose, especially in the future, long-term, keeping those values high, keeping consistency high, keeping tenants in line without you being the bad cop all the time. Do you like working with Dad?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Do you want to do it more often?
Yes.
Do you want us to do it more often?
This turning thing right here, that cleans the seat.
Oh, that turning thing that you're turning right now cleans the seat, huh?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can see you've done a great job, Jack. Oh, your lemons! What are they doing here?
you put them there.
So now we're gonna check out this house that is in a homeowners association.
Yes.
Oh yeah, look at the steps. All right, going up. So the reason I took us to this neighborhood is because this is a neighborhood that was built in 2008. And then we're gonna go over to a neighborhood that was built in 2003 and 4. And we're gonna compare. This particular neighborhood is in a homeowners association because it does have townhouses. Like over here, you've got these 2-story townhouses. You've got a little park over here. But the houses actually only have an association due of $18 per month. Whereas the 2003 and 4 neighborhood that we're just gonna drive by afterwards has no association dues, so therefore no rules and regs, and I wanna take a peek at the differences. Now, of course, yeah, there's a 4-year age difference, but don't worry, you'll see a difference beyond that. Let's take a look at this house first. You know, I always like coming through other people's listings and just sort of looking around. I mean, I like they got plantation shutters, but golly, dark, dark, dark. This is a case where when you have this kind of dark flooring, and it's also worn, heavily worn flooring, dark cabinets, everything's pretty dark. I'd either always have the lights on or I would paint the very dark colors a little brighter. They have very strict architectural guidelines in the neighborhood, and they just recently made everybody repaint their garages, and they started sending violations for people who were not maintaining their paint on the exterior. And then oftentimes when people do creative sort of backyards or alley yards, if you will, you find that they're usually more maintained because otherwise the HOA starts sending the violations again. Yes, Jack? Can you say river rocks?
River Rock.
Now, let's go back inside. Hey, now just an FYI for when you're buying houses, when you find things like this sort of peeling paint, it's a sign that whoever repainted this garage door didn't use primer, so maybe they didn't really know what they were doing. Something to know, because sometimes that's... Jack, can you give me 1 second? Sometimes that's a red flag that they do a lot of things themselves. Yes, Jack. Let's go look at that big one that you keep asking me about. Oh my gosh, that one's huge, Jack.
Let's check upstairs.
Let's do it. That's how you get up the stairs, huh? Oh, that's nice. You got the park right there.
Then look, there they come.
Oh, yeah. Jack, we're gonna look around for a second, and we're gonna look at the houses with the window down, just to see if the houses are pretty and well-maintained, okay? Okay, so let's just give this a little drive around here. We'll just drive around some of these exterior, larger properties here. The townhouses, those retail for about 500 grand. The one we were just in goes about $750, and the ones on the outside go for about $850 to $950. So let's video what we've got here. And then just kind of remember, these are 2008 houses, but let's kind of look at the overall condition and how people's front yards are, the consistency of the neighborhood, and so on and so forth. Now, let's go on over to this 2003, 2004 neighborhood. Autopilot means the car's driving itself.
Oh.
Do you want to drive the car on autopilot?
No.
No?
Because I don't know how to drive.
Do you know the Muffin Man?
Yes, I know nothing.
Do you know where he lives? On Duty Lane? Just arrived at the other neighborhood. Let's go ahead and check this one out. So what are we seeing here? We're seeing a little bit, I mean, overall it's pretty good, right? It's obviously a cleaner, newer neighborhood, but we do have a little bit more variation in the colors of houses. A lot more people seem to have RVs. Some people have their garages sort of extending out into the driveway. Some people are parking off on sort of gravel, or they've got like a lumberjack yard going on in the front yard, or they're doing carpentry in the front yard, or you know, we've got a little bit more variety going on, so to speak. So we've got some more variety in terms of the colors, in terms of the amount of storage that we're seeing. And we're seeing building maintenance standards maybe not as great as the HOA neighborhood. I mean, overall, still pretty good. So what do we have here with the Noob vs. Pro adaptation regarding homeowners associations and exposing them? Well, we have on one hand the noob that says, I don't want to buy in an HOA because if I buy in an HOA, I might have to follow rules. Then you have the pro investor that says, I get to follow rules for the little bit of time that I'm going to be living here, and then I'm moving onwards, and the tenant has to follow the rules. But not just the tenant, everybody in the neighborhood, which means no storing of junk. What is the point of an HOA but making sure that other people around you also follow the rules and regulations? If there's no HOA, there might be conditions, covenants, and restrictions for a neighborhood. Those are called CC&Rs, but those don't really have an enforcement body. That's the big thing missing if there's no HOA, and that's what noobs don't realize is, sure, there could be rules and regs that say you're not allowed to park your RV, but who's gonna enforce it? You'd have to sue somebody to get enforcement done. And we all know that ain't a fun process. Then we learned that a homeowners association would also help sort of mitigate some of the risk of being either a first-time home buyer or even an investor. You pretty much have all of your expenses for building maintenance incorporated generally into the association dues, at least in good associations. And this is why it's so important for you to qualify a homeowners association properly before buying into it. And the number one thing noobs don't realize when they're looking into a homeowners association is dues history, and the number two thing is, do they consider, does the HOA allow tenants, and what's the process to get tenants approved to allow properties to be rented? Very important. I feel like running. Then we have to consider that HOAs will also provide you with amenities, and sometimes they'll contribute to paying some of your utility costs, which a lot of noobs don't consider. They just look and say, oh, I'm gonna pay this HOA. Now that's great because when you're buying, you're already buying in at a reduced price if there is a homeowners association. But the only downside is, let's say you have $300 in association dues, and that means that properties are selling for about $50,000 less than a similar property that maybe does not have association dues. Here's one little pro caveat that the noobs might be right in thinking, it's a little bit of a downside with HOAs, is that $50,000 amount that you're actually paying less in purchase price because you have the HOA dues doesn't lead to any kind of price appreciation for you. That is, if prices go up 10%, the one that's in the HOA doesn't get that extra sort of $5,000 on that $50,000 of appreciation. So there you have it. HOAs, noob versus pro style, exposed.